I already set the sled up to 7.9 degrees and the blade up to 8. And those were numbers that were taken from Dan Swaim's charts that he was nice enough to provide. So if you want to learn more about segments, you certainly should check out his channel. And he is just a very nice fellow to deal with. And he's got data galore. So let's try a cut here on this walnut. All right, that's 8 chunks. This is going to be a 16 segment bowl. So I already have the other 8 pieces cut. I use a digital protractor to set this angle. It's accurate to 0.1 degrees, which I don't know if that's great or what, but I also use it to set this up by moving the fence back. And I'll get right down low and put something white behind the blade so I can see any gap between the protractor and the blade. So, and then when I make the first cut, that little sacrificial gadget to get me on the right track, I take that and I measure it with the protractor again to make sure I was right. So I don't know how I can get much more accurate than that, but we'll see. I'm going to start to glue these up in pairs. This is some ash, and I'm going to alternate with the ash and the walnut. I think that'll look good together. And I had previously cut the 2 pieces of walnut and ash to be the same thickness and the same height. So, and I've planned for these to set at a 45-degree angle. So, let's see how it goes. Now I discovered that by using some LePage's high initial tack glue here, that I don't need to go to extreme methods to clamp these things up. If I just hold them for a minute, that they'll generally clamp themselves. Let's hope that's still true. Now when I set them down, I'll just put a piece underneath, and that'll hold them at the right angle. I'm going to try to make sure I get these all in the same configuration. I have also found out that once you set these in their place, you better make sure you've got them pretty accurate, because if you try to move them, you'll break that initial bond. And it doesn't seem to like that. And Swaim's charts are laid out in 1/8-inch increments, and you can cross-reference those to his other charts, which show you for so many segments. This is the degrees that you want for the miter and the tilt, the blade angle rather. So if you use them in conjunction with each other, it will give you this measurement here, and that also, he's got it figured out so that will give you roughly the length of the board you're going to need. So, I mean, it's just a great set of charts, and I highly recommend them to anybody that wants to try them. I glued these up in real time, so you can see that none of them have come apart with just that little bit of gluing and holding pressure just for a minute, and we'll see how they look in a while. There's the second set of glue ups. I got 4 chunks of 4 chunks, and we'll let that sit and just finish setting up for an hour or so, and then I can put 2 more of these together. And once I have 2 halves, we'll check and see how much accumulated error we have and if we'll have to deal with it or not. So anyways, I did this all off camera because there's no point in letting you watch through the same procedure that I did with the double chunks. This right here is just a bit of burn off the planer. So that's going to come off of there anyways once I turn it, so I'm not worried about that. I just finished gluing up the 2 halves, and you may think of this as an unusual clamping arrangement given that the glue joint is here. And if you look underneath, you can see a little bit of light, but overall the 2 halves are sitting flat on the table. And what I've done is I've just used these 2 clamps to kind of counterbalance them so that they'll stay sitting flat while the glue finishes curing. Now, at one point I tried putting a clamp here, but that just squished it apart. And I tried using this little gadget which is a disposable thing at the hospital from when they draw blood from you. And this here just seemed to work out for me. So so many times I've tried to get ideas to make this sort of center joint when I do halves. But I just hit on this a few minutes ago and it seemed to work. So we'll see. I just held them like I did before with my fingers for a few minutes. And they seem to be holding just fine. So this one was a couple of minutes ahead of this one. And it's still sitting there happy as a lark. So we'll just see how it goes. And in another hour or so, I'll be able to set these two halves together and see how much accumulated error is in there. I set the two halves, or the four pieces together at first with some tape around them, and it seems that it's virtually the perfect diameter for here. So Dan's numbers look like they're right on the money. So we'll be back. Alright, it's a couple hours later. The glue has set up enough that I can play with this now. When I first set these two pieces together, there was a pretty wide gap at the bottom, maybe an eighth of an inch. I guess that's not too wide, but a miss is as good as a mile. So I took these two pieces and I set them on the belt down like this, but I marked them. You can still see a little bit of a pencil mark here to try to press a little harder on this top side of the segments. And I did that a couple of times on each one, trying to make sure that the face became flat. And you could see that this was the less touched chunk of the whole thing. And the same on this end. Same with the other chunk. Now they seem to fit together pretty well. There's a little bit of difference in the diameter from one side to the other. Now I don't know if that's just the way I cut them or just the way I glued them up. But either way, the difference is going to turn out of there once I get it mounted to the base. I'm still going to have a pretty nice rim on the bowl. I'll once it's glued up, I want to level this out down here, take this lip off, or I could just round it out and make the bowl blank match that angle by turning it a little bit. So well, we'll figure that out when we get that far. Now, right now I'm going to glue it up, and I'm not going to do anything with it now until tomorrow. I'm going to let that sit overnight because I have this segment ring chucked up in the Longworth chuck. That's pretty good. Yeah. That's nice and flat across. I like that. I was so caught up in what I was trying to accomplish, I forgot to press record. In any case, what I've done here, well, I've hollowed out some of the center of this segmented ring, and I doubt if you can tell from the camera angle, but the ring is a bit oval shaped, ovoid, and like an idiot, although it didn't try to kill me, I was going to use that curly maple that I had for the bottom of this, and like the dunce that I am, I turned it a little bit too small for this diameter. So I come up with a couple of plans to replace it, and the only one that struck my fancy really was this piece of hickory. So I turned it round, and this little inclusion, bark inclusion, looks great, but most of it's going to get turned away. So I said, well, let's keep the color on the top. And anyway, so I turned these pretty close to the same size, and it fits perfect. I would say virtually no slop in there, so I'm going to glue these up, and that's probably a tomorrow morning job to start turning this. So we'll let it glue up, and then we'll finish this beast. Alright, I just mounted this little gem up on the lathe, and it is the ash and walnut with the new hickory bottom on it. And I was having a rough time deciding which way to start, but I think I'm going to do the inside first, and that way I'll have a reference where I can go with the outside. I still have this lip underneath here from where I cut that rabbit into it, so I want to get that gone, and then once I know how much it takes to get rid of that, I can decide how much to take off the outside. So that's plan A at least. The swarf monster attacked me again. brute. I'm just finishing up here. This has come out very nice. I just put a little bit of decoration in the bottom piece. I don't think I'm going to do anything to the top because it just looks great. It's smooth like a proverbial baby's bottom, and it hasn't even been touched with sandpaper yet. Maybe I'm getting better at doing this, I don't know. It still needs to be turned around, and that'll be in the Longworth chuck, so I can just finish up the bottom a little bit. But I'm going to hit this with some sandpaper here, and then I can spin it around and clean up this little ring I put on the bottom, because I had to take a little more off the bottom because it wasn't going to sit flat. So once I do that, we'll be ready for some finish. So we'll see how it's going to look. I think it's going to look great. And I finished taking that little lip that was on there from me truing up the bottom. I had left this little dome on here, but I may have to take a little bit more off that dome. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's going to sit too well. Might make a good seesaw, but we're going to have to turn a little more. And since I'm using the Longworth chuck, I'm not going to be able to spin too fast, so this is probably going to take a couple of attempts. Okay, I think we're ready for finish. I'll give her a little blast. You guys go away. Good. Just finishing up this little bowl here. Used Howard Feed and Wax on it, which is a food safe finish. And It's actually come out very nice. I mean, it's just completely smooth on here now. So I sanded to 600 grit, and gave it a good coat of the Howard, and let it sit for, well, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of an hour, but it looks like it's finished now. And let me pull it off of here, and we'll sit it on the bench and let you have a better look at it. Okay, here we are at the bench, and you could see it. The Howard brought the grain of the ash and the walnut out beautiful, and it brought up this color in the hickory. Very nice. It's it's remarkable to me how well the hickory colors in the hickory match the colors in the segments. And this bark inclusion here in the hickory has just brought it out. It's beautiful. It's too bad that there wasn't more of that bark inclusion in the piece of wood that I grabbed. So, and those little trenches that I dug in there came out really nice. And I think that's a nice gift for a friend of mine who will just remain unnamed here. But he is a budding chef, so I think he may enjoy this with the food grade finish on it. So anyways, I used my Longworth Chuck meets Lazy Susan to finish it on, and it held it really nice. So we'll say adios for now. Thanks for watching Schroedman's Shop. My name's Dave, and I hope we'll catch you on the next one. Be safe, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and share.